Okay, we are live, but we shall let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook and Instagram. And then we're going to get things fired up. Stoked to be here. Stoked to be here. Sorry we're running late. We had some technical difficulties tonight. Sorry, guys. And I think we're good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, not a lot of news this weekend. So before we say hellos to people in the chat and get to the topics at hand this evening, how's your weekend been, brother?
It's been pretty chill, Chad. I can't really complain. Had a little bit of a hectic day today, as you know about right before we went on. But it's just in the build up and the lead up to the draft, I start getting more anxious, and we're fast approaching late April.
We're in that hurry up and wait stage, right? Where it's
Exactly.
like, come on, man. Feels like we've been waiting forever, but it'll be here. Good things come to those who wait. Some shouts to the patient people tonight. Thank you for hanging tight for us, guys, like the Papa Bear jumping in early with the super as is his
Appreciate
way.
it.
We love you, big dog. Saying good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, Deacon Scott. Hashtag God bless the USA. Buckham times 3. MHH for life. Broncos for life. Let's go, Bo. Then he says, we really need to get Ashton Jeanty. Zach, on that topic, now you'll have to forgive me because this offseason in particular, I have so long a long time ago I lost track of how many freaking articles I've copy edited. But when it comes to these draft ones, sometimes they run together. Here we go. This is from Nick Kendall. Headline, you ready for this? Broncos urged to make blockbuster draft trade to land Ashton Jeanty, of course, the number one running back in the class, Boise State. And this is the urging comes from the Athletics prime, draft guru, Dane Brugler. And I'll just tell you real quick, quote, he says, this was on a podcast, Zach, says, to answer a question about where we would want to see the best fit for Jeanty, Sean Payton trading up into the top 10. Make it happen, he says. Splash. To me, I would love to see that fit and to see how that would work with that offense, with that quarterback. I think that'd be a lot of fun, close quote. But Zach, no one really expects Jeanty to get past the Raiders at 6. So if you're the Broncos, do you really want to trade up into the top 5 for a running back because you know how pricey that can be?
Exactly. It's not going to happen as much as we all wanted to. It tickles my fancy, Chad, considering the other draft scenarios people have talked about, like trading out of the first round entirely. It's the best running back in the draft class. He'd be a dynamic 3-star talent in Sean Payton's system. But you're right. The only player that you trade up in the top 5 for is a quarterback. And fortunately, the Broncos are set there. So we have to settle on the 1B, 1C, and et cetera after Genty's off the board.
But I'll tell you, Papa Bear, it's not hard to love Ashton Jeanty. You turn on his tape and we heard, for example, Zach, nearly a week ago, last Monday, George Payton talk a lot about a three down back.
Right.
Well, this dude's a three down back, and not just in the sense that he can pound the rock and maybe, pass block on third down and not be a tell, so to speak, on what you might be doing on third down. But this dude can catch the ball too. Like he's the dream. And it's just unfortunate, Zach. He's probably going to be rocking silver and black, much to our chagrin.
He'd be unbelievable in Sean Payton's offense. He would take Bo Nix and the rest of them to a new level, and that's why it's easy to connect those dots. But again, it's even in a running back rich class, you can't expend that capital and trade up. You have to let the board fall to you. Fortunately, though, Chad, after Ashton Jeanty, the Broncos are still guaranteed to get a good running back that's going to be the starter going forward.
Some other hellos again. Thank you, David. We've of course got Dylan helping us in the chat tonight. Appreciate you, buddy. String guy, good to see you. William, David Youngkin. Those are the early birds. Michael Davis as well, of course. And String guy wants to know, I'm starting to warm up to Emeka Egbuka, the Ohio State receiver, or Trey Henderson, Ohio State running back, or Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant at number 20, depending on how the board falls. I doubt Peyton wants to trade back. My hope, echoing the Papa Bear, is Jeanty. Yeah, and here's the thing. Prognostications and predictions are one thing, Zach, but we've seen it more than once where a highly touted, whether it's a running back, a quarterback, pick the prospect's position, doesn't go anywhere near where he was projected. And he kind of has one of those draft day falls and plummets. And So, hey, you can't completely rule it out, Zach. The slim, albeit slim possibility, but just don't get your heart set on Jeanty. Meanwhile, hey, Trey Henderson's great, Zach. I would love Trey Henderson, but at 20, I'm not sure the value. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying I'm not certain the value is right. But if Sean Payton were to draft Henderson at 20, signaling, hey, I'm confident in this guy, then I'd get excited about it.
We need like a gas mask bong video to surface before the draft for Ashton Jeanty to fall in the Broncos' laps. It would be fun. It's exciting to talk about, but it's clearly not happening. But you're speaking my language, string guy. I love Henderson. He's to me, the most exciting running back this side of Jeanty coming out. And if 20, I don't think it's too rich for the Broncos, but if I were calling the shots, if he's their guy, similar to Bo Nix, I talked about this on Thursday, if he's their guy, Sean Payton signs off and he thinks he's the best player available, even if it's a little too early, get your guy. Just get your guy.
Eric Holt also with the super chat. Great to see you tonight, big dog. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for helping us keep the lights on a sleepy Sunday, April the 6th. We're a little less than 3 weeks out from the draft, so it's very helpful. Thank you, Eric. He says, the draft season is upon us. Stealing a line from one of my favorite movies, Draft Day. Haven't I been telling everyone we need a running back? He says, Zach, RJ Harvey is my pick. And RJ Harvey is an interesting player, but just for what it's worth and some context here, relative to the consensus, mock draft consensus big board, all right, he is projected to be a 4th round pick. So Broncos have a 4th rounder this year. I wouldn't hate it if RJ was one of those, even if they took a running back earlier in the draft.
And that's the cold, hard reality as to why the Broncos should not move up for Jeanty, because it's just too loaded with running back talent. Even George Payton talked about it. Rounds 2 through 6, you can get a starting caliber running back, and that's exactly what I think the Broncos will do. So RJ Harvey is intriguing, though, Chad, I hope they don't wait until the 4th round to address that position.
Same. Eric, thank you again, big dog. And Harvey is one of those sleepers. He is an interesting prospect. Mike's turning off the bondsman for the podcast. Thank you, bro. That's very to Zach and I, we take that as high praise and
Thank you, Mike.
honor. But I just had to Google for craps and giggles when I saw that. What is the Bondsman? It's an American action horror television series on Amazon. Didn't know that. Looks like it's got Kevin Bacon in it, maybe. Yeah, Kevin Bacon. So we'll have to check that out, dude. Great to see you tonight. Big Earn in the house, of course. Broncos country only. Feel you, my friend. Casey Nickel, what's going on, dude? Great to see you. Drafting a DL in the 1st round wouldn't upset me. Then you go for a running back tight end round 2 or 3. That's definitely on the table, buddy. It's definitely on the table. And I'll tell you, Nick Kendall, I've probably, in just 2 of his articles, Zach, I copy edited like 4,000 words in 2 articles. And it's all good stuff. It's just like long, right? It's just long. It's for those deep divers, right? And that's where we started from. That's where we're at. We love, when I was part of what inspired me to get into this and start my own website and do my own thing that's grown all the way to MHH and Denver Broncos on SI and all that, was I had my favorite website that I read every single day. And it was called It's All Over Fat Man, that was ran by Doc Bear, and he had his great staff, Doug and whatnot. And I was just like you guys. I was one of the active commenters. It was a website, so it was a comment section at the bottom of every article. And I loved reading those. The longer, the better. So hats off to Nick. But Zach, the reason I go into that little anecdote is he's saying, look, guys, it's like this weekend in particular, he's really been kind of priming Broncos country to not get upset when it's not a running back at pick 20.
Yeah, I'll give Nick credit for sure. He's been on the defensive line train pretty much since the Super Bowl ended with Philadelphia and what they did to Kansas City. And it's kind of hard to blame him. He doesn't believe in taking running back no matter what. Some of us believe the Broncos' biggest need is running back. So if they could get a good one, then they should go in that direction. But there are different ways the Broncos could go. It could be running back. It could be receiver. Hell, maybe Colston Loveland, Chad, that it falls into their laps and they have a successor for Evan Ingram. Who knows? But defensive line for sure is on the menu come round 1.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. What's that from? If you're a true nerd, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I got to keep an eye on the Facebook chat on my phone tonight, guys, so forgive me glancing down. It's not because I'm not paying attention or disengaged. Mr. Producer had some family stuff this evening, so it's all good. But let me check here. So Casey Nickel, it was good to see you, buddy. Shiloh's saying, hey, listen, dude, I'm convinced we'll go defensive line, running back, and tight ends rounds 1 through 3, assuming no trades. Well, Sean Payton kind of likes to trade up. George Payton, Zach, kind of likes to trade down. So it'll be interesting to see which way that cookie crumbles as a result of the battle of the wills.
And how it shook out last season was they stayed put at 12 and took Sean Payton's guy. I guess their guy collectively in Bo Nix. That's what I think is going to happen, Chad. Ultimately, they're going to stay put at 20, and whatever player is best available in their board, they're going to end up taking.
David Youngkin, thank you, bro, for the super chat. Really
Dave.
appreciate you, brother. He says, I have not been high on Jeanty anyway because I just don't see him getting out of the top 6 or top 5. So in other words, it's not that you're not high on him. It's that you haven't allowed yourself to get your hopes up and get like invested in him as a genuine possibility. And if that's what you're saying, I feel you. For me, it was a lot harder to not just be really impressed, if not enamored by him, because even just talking to him, like when we were at the combine, it's like, dude, this guy is legit. This guy has his, stands on business, so to speak, and very sharp, articulate, one hell of an athlete, uber productive. I mean, were it not, Zach, for one of the biggest outlier seasons in the history of NCAA football with Travis Hunter both weighing it the way he did. I mean, Jeanty was would have been the hands down Heisman Trophy winner in 9 out of 10 seasons, let's say.
For sure. He's an unbelievable talent. That's why we all would want the Broncos to maybe move up, but just not that far. If it was going from 20 to 18 or 17, that's way more palatable. But going from 20 to the top 5, it's future first-round picks and players like a Russell Wilson type trade. You just can't do it for a devalued position, no matter how good Jeanty is as a prospect, Chad.
And there are other options. We'll talk more about it, but we have the Duchess jumping in from the top rope, blessing us with a very generous super chat, as is her way. And it's one of many, many, many reasons why she's near and dear to our heart. And absolutely on the top of the MHH super chat superstar Mount Rushmore. We love you, Michaela. But she's saying, listen, I wouldn't be sad if the Broncos went D-line in round 1. Pardon me. And I wouldn't either, because you've got to remember that part of the purpose of the draft is to not only just, hey, pick the best player and let's get as many of the best players as we can get, but you got to kind of look ahead, Zach, and you got to preempt not necessarily what you know is going to happen, although some of those things you do know, but like what could happen. And well, what could happen? There's a chance all 3 of Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, and Malcolm Roach aren't Broncos at this time next year. What would happen in the event such a thing came to pass? Well, Broncos would be screwed. Now, if they add a D lineman at some point, especially a top one that could conceivably start contributing year 1, year 2, that mitigates that. And it makes, for example, the need for spending money on Malcolm Roach or maybe John Franklin Myers, it mitigates that. So D-line, Zach, I wouldn't hate it. I just read 2 of Eric Trickle's Finding Broncos scouting reports over the weekend, one on Ohio State's Tyleik Williams and the other one on Kenneth Grant, who we mentioned earlier in the show. Both very interesting. Grant's a first rounder. Williams, though, he's more of a day 2 guy.
Yeah, not only do you have multiple free agents on the defensive line coming up, and you really can't pay them all, including Nick Benito and everybody else, Cortland Sutton, you have nothing behind the starters that you can lean on. There's no one in-house, Chat, that's been developing organically to the point where you can insert them and they can be day 1 starters. Jordan Jackson, Matt Henningsen, Uzurike. No, you need definitive talent, elite blue chip talent there, Michaela. So that's why not my plan A, but if they did go D-line, I would not be unhappy because they'd be stocking an area of need that no one's really talking about because running back and tight end and receiver have gotten the attention.
So just for craps and giggles here, I'm going to show you what it is that I'm constantly referencing in our conversation, the big board. Okay, this is the consensus big board. And this is the D-line section, all right? And so it shows you in order. Here's your top guys. And, of course, Mason Graham, who played with Kenneth Grant at Michigan, he won't be around. He'll be gone early. But beyond Mason Graham, who's ranked first amongst D linemen, then it's Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon from Oregon, Walter Nolan, who that ties into this super chat here from Shiloh. Shiloh, we're going to grab you here in just a second on that. And then look, we got Tyleek, I mentioned, Williams from Ohio State. Darius Alexander is really interesting to me, Zach. This was one of the guys who at the Senior Bowl, Scott and I, watching him in person for 3 days, we talked about Shamar Stewart from, I don't know if they have him listed as D-line, but anyway, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, how it looks like Tarzan but plays like Jane, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
This cat, Darius Alexander, he looks like Tarzan, plays like Tarzan. Beast, man. I would love it if the Broncos managed to land him in the second round. And he's so interesting. I wouldn't even hate it if he was a first-round pick by the Broncos. I'm not even kidding. That dude is legit. Remember that name. He's going to be a stud in the NFL. But then there's Alfred Collins. Just a couple more here. TJ Sanders. You see the names here, all right? And after you get beyond about the first 10 guys, Zach, it starts kind of falling off a cliff.
Yeah, but it's pretty deep otherwise, and it lines up with the Broncos' needs, just like it does for running back, just like it does for tight end. So the Broncos are in a very fortuitous position, but everyone's mocking, Omarion Hampton or Trey Henderson or Ibuka or whatever. Don't be surprised, like Michaela was saying, and thank you so much, Michaela, as always, for your generosity. If come round one, the Broncos are restocking that defensive line cupboard, I wouldn't hate it.
And yeah, exactly. Totally. And by the way, there's been buzz lately. I'm trying to remember who it's through. It might have been oh dang it. What's his name? Is it Schultz? What's his name?
Jordan Schultz from
Jordan saying, "Hey dude, for Broncos fans who are kind of going, well, I guess I got to come to terms with my second guy, Hampton at pick 20, that he won't be there either. That he and Jeanty are going to be gone much earlier than the Broncos go on the clock." Now, Hampton, he's a legit 3-down back as well, but he hasn't shown at this point in his career, coming from North Carolina, like Javonte Williams, Zach, he hasn't shown the same propensity for being that pass catcher and potential joker. Doesn't mean that he couldn't, doesn't mean he doesn't have it in him, that he couldn't be coached up and trained up and get there, but he is also, Zach, one of the true 3-down guys in this draft. So those two guys might not be there. And if neither are, wouldn't shock me, as Michaela's saying here, if they go D-line.
Yeah, I mean, you move on to the next best prospect, and if you go off of running back or go off of receiver, and defensive line is staring you in the face, and take a defensive lineman there. But if Omarion Hampton goes, Chad, that means you can maybe move back in round 1 for Trey Henderson, come up in round 2 for Henderson. You can do a bunch of different things, and the Broncos are guaranteed to get a very talented player no matter what.
And once again, that's one of the beauties of the Broncos offseason maneuvers, is it gave them the freedom, baby. They can. This isn't like last year where it was QB or bust. Please God, Bo Nix be there at 12. And if he wasn't there, you would have found a way somehow. Like if you had intelligence that your guy wasn't going to be there or what have you, move up a little. But the Broncos were pretty confident he was going to be there, and it worked out. Shiloh, second super chat, or is it second? First. I grabbed a different comment from him earlier. That's what I was thinking too. But anyway, yes, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Has the Walter Nolan character drama been resolved? That I'm not sure of, my friend. I don't have my ear to the floor as closely as, say, Eric and Nick. I would ask one of those guys the latest they've heard on it, Zach. Unless you have something on this, they'll be on tomorrow morning, Broncos for Breakfast on the Bright.
Yeah, there's a couple players in this class, Tet McMillan being the other one, where he said he doesn't like watching film, and that kind of was a red flag for some. Nolan, you've heard about the character concerns, you've heard about the play, not durability concerns, but his want for football, those kind of concerns. But we won't really know till it shakes out in the wash. We won't really know until they get in the NFL and they start playing. Micah Parsons in the Patrick Surtain draft 21. All we heard about was the baggage and the character concerns, and there was some legitimacy to it, but turns out he was a hell of an NFL player. Still is.
No doubt about it. So David's clarifying. He's saying, yeah, I like Jeanty, but it's just I'm being reasonable. I'm being realistic. It's not going to happen. And pardon me. I think you're right, my buddy. I think you're right. We've also got DJ Capo jumping in. Good to see you, big dog. Hope you're doing well. He's saying, here are my top 5 picks. 1, a tight end for the Broncos, right? Round 1. Round 2, running back. 3, D-line. 4, wide receiver. 5, defensive back. # Broncos for life. And that's a very interesting sequence. We'll get into the ESPN bit about the 3 quote-unquote needs they say the Broncos still have entering the draft. But, Zach, what do you say about DJ's order of priority here?
If he's going in order, I think all those should be addressed. I don't think tight end is number one anymore with the addition of Evan Ingram. Running back is number one. I would put honestly defensive line probably number two, receiver number three, tight end number four, because you have to think about life after Ingram, and then defensive back. I don't know if you mean safety or corner. They're very high. We wrote about a chat on Chris Abrams drain at cornerback, and they just signed Hufanga to go with Brandon Jones, but you'd want someone else behind them as well there. So I agree, just a little bit out of order, DJ.
Great to see you, big dog. Thank you very much. George Fox also checking in on Facebook with some stars. Thank you, pal. Great to see you. He says, guys, there is no wrong choice because somewhere in the draft we'll get our running back, Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Thank you, pal. Really appreciate that. And yeah, it's a loaded class. George Payton already basically all but guaranteed it. He's like, we'll get a running back. So let not your hearts be troubled. Thank you, George. Byron Lewis, what's up, dude?
Thank you, Byron.
If Jeanty falls a little bit, he would be worth a small move up. So tell me where's too what distance, Zach, is too far. So sitting at 20, if he makes it to 10, you're trying to move up, or if he makes it to 15, you're trying to move up. Where is kind of the zone where you would feel comfortable moving up? Because if you moved up, I don't have the draft chart thing in front of me right now, but if you went from 20 to say 15, maybe a third round pick, maybe a fourth round pick. I'm not sure, but what do you think?
Well, it's all about leverage, Chad. The team that the Broncos would be trading with would know they want to come up for Jeanty, so they would have more leverage to hold the Broncos over the barrel. So I'd say about 15, anywhere where it would wade into future first round pick territory. You just can't trade that sort of capital for a running back. You can't trade that sort of capital for a running back in this deep of class. If Jeanty was, the premier running back and then it was just crap after him, I'd say maybe explore it, but it's just too deep and you're guaranteed to get a good one if you just are a little patient. So I would say 15 or so would be my limit for a trade up.
Byron, really interesting point though. And again, I don't expect it, but it is the NFL. We can't rule it out that Ashton Jeanty could tumble. We shall see. But Zach, let me segue here because Michael Davis is bringing up a point saying, hey, look, Broncos are in a good spot this year. And then he lays out team needs and then the corresponding draft class strengths. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Michael, because ESPN, now remember, when we talk about ESPN, you've got the national coverage, and then you've got the local closer to home coverage from the venerated Jeff Legwold, who's been on the Broncos beat for decades, basically, right? Decades, and was the former Pro Football Writers of America president. The dude is plugged in, and especially with the team. Now, he did a team up with one of the national guys, more of a draft guy, Jordan Reed, and they laid out questions and remaining needs. Here's what they basically said, and it's an ESPN Plus, so I won't quote them, but I'll at least tell you what the needs are. They say, Zach, the Broncos still have questions on the depth chart. In other words, roster needs at running back. That one we'll all agree with. Wide receiver and ... cornerback. Do you see cornerback? We can talk about receiver, but do you see cornerback as a prevailing hole on the roster?
I think whether you do or don't depends on your opinion on Riley Moss, whether he could be a true number two behind PS2 or not. I think he could be. I'm very impressed with what he showed before he got injured, Chad, and he came back in that Bengals game, very tough assignment against two elite receivers, and he never was quite the same after that. But when he's healthy, I think he's a stud, and they have Abrams drained behind him, I guess still Damari Mathis, so I'm not pressing the panic button at cornerback. I think they're pretty okay there.
I just don't think, pardon me, that when Moss came back, I don't think he was 100%. I think he was probably like 90, 95%. And look, guys, if you need any further evidence, in my opinion, Riley Moss has already proven he is this team's complement to Patrick Surtain on the boundary. And if you need any further evidence, just look at what happened to the passing defense those 4 games or whatever it was, Zach. He was out down the stretch. Brutal, absolute evisceration, humiliation. Guys lost jobs. Dudes were cut. It was brutal because Riley Moss went down. It wasn't just, Zach, that, you missed him in coverage, but also the tackling. It had a really bad trickle-down effect on the entire defense, similar to how they responded when Pat Surtain first got hurt. What was it? The Chargers game was it the Chargers game with the concussion on the first defensive play of the game, and they were like shell shocked. They ended up bouncing back a little bit, but the Broncos lost that game. This was a shell shock that persisted, Zach, through a month of the season.
And we were doing podcasts, and the actual headline, the topic point was, is the key to Vance Joseph's defense, the elite defense, Riley Moss, because they were so much different without him, Chad, than when he was in the lineup. So I think I'm with you. They're okay there, and God willing, Riley Moss will stay healthy this year along with PS2. But receiver is interesting because Mike Kliss in particular has been reporting for weeks that they're going to probably sign a wide receiver 2.5, someone that can be just a complimentary player. They didn't sign a receiver, just like they didn't sign a running back. So I'm starting to think that's maybe more of a priority than some are willing to let on.
I agree. I think it's definitely on the list of items the Broncos plan on handling in the draft. It's on the shopping list. Let's put it that way. Sometimes, though, you get deep into the grocery store and you forget something on your list. You're in the car. You've thrown all the bags in. You're about to pull away, and you go, "Oh, dang it, the cream cheese!"
Every time.
And you're like, I'm out of here. And you drive off. You missed your opportunity, so to speak. But here, Zach, is a quick look at the top receivers, or at least the way the big board is shaken out at Mock Draft Database. Tet McMillan is still viewed as the top wideout in the class. And I got to tell you that there's the two of the next three guys don't impress me much. Like Matthew Golden, that's not the right way to say it. It's not that they don't impress me. I don't see them as very solid fits for the Broncos, either Golden or Burden, for what it's worth. But I really like Emeka Egbuka. And if he were if he were the Broncos pick at 20, Zach, I wouldn't hate it. He would be a long-term key player on this offense. Jaden Higgins, once you get past Burden, Trey Harris, Elik Ayamanor, and then one of my draft crushes right here. He could be your number 2. He could be your big slot. He could probably even play a little tight end if you needed him to. But this guy, Jack Besh, the MVP of the Senior Bowl, I tell you, in person, OMG, he's just a badass. And he will win that rep, and he will win on game day. And I'm just telling you right now, he might lack some of the explosive, showy traits that, for example, say a Matthew Golden or Luther Burden type of long speed or whatever. But if you want a football player who loves the game and wins the rep, and when you win the rep, Zach, over and over and over again, more often than not, you're probably winning the game. Keep an eye on Jack Besh because I bet he's a guy, too, that a coach like Sean Payton would fall in love with. It's just a matter of value. Where could you get him? If you wanted him, you probably have to draft him a little early with pick 51 in the second round.
Yeah, you can go defensive line, though, at 20 and then get Besh at 51. Then you're solving two major areas of need. Then in the third round, Chad, you can grab a running back. That would be a really nice, solid haul overall. But I'm pretty much in agreement with you about the class. I love Egbuka. I'm not a fan of Burden at all. And the dichotomy of those picks, I would love or really like an Egbuka pick, but I would really dislike if they took Luther Burden, Chad. I just don't see his value in a Sean Payton offense or being coached by Sean Payton.
Exactly. And in that scenario where maybe it's D-line round 1 and a Besh round 2, what are some of the running backs that'll be around round 3 and 4? That's where you're going to find your Scatterbows. I do think Sampson will get drafted much higher than they have him currently on the Mock Draft Database big board. But Dylan Sampson, he's another one of he wasn't at the Senior Bowl or anything like that, but Dylan Sampson's one of those guys that I'm kind of crushing over in terms of the draft. And also in that range, talking round 3, round 4, DJ Giddens, more of a Audric Estime power back. Let's say more of a Mark Ingram. If you're looking for the complement, right? You're looking for, because Sean Payton, RBBC, he loves the committee. So if you're looking for his version of a Bronco Mark Ingram, DJ Giddens would be an option. You would need to still fill that role that Alvin Kamara had. That's where a Sampson could come into play. But still, I'm digressing a little bit. Day 2, so round 3, and then early round day 3, Damian Martinez. Tootin's awesome. RJ Harvey, we talked about earlier. There's some guys in that zone, Zach, in that scenario you mentioned. Broncos could still come away with some serious playmakers.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's choose your own kind of adventure there. Choose your flavor that you're comfortable with because there's speed backs available, power backs, and some do-it-all backs. That's why, Chad, you don't have to press in round one for a running back as much as the Broncos need one. You don't have to move up for Ashton Jeanty as good as he is. Just be patient and follow your board.
We got Mike Thompson jumping in with a super chat. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you. He says a two-stud tight end pro-style offense is almost unstoppable. I will die on that hill. Hashtag I still want Loveland. And that's another aspect here where it's possible because of that injury, he'll be around at pick 20. And it's like, hey, if it's truly best player available, right? If the Broncos are going to try and stay disciplined to the BPA thing, I mean, Mock Draft Database has him as the 14th, nope, exactly that, the 20th overall prospect. So he fits, Zach, right perfect with where the Broncos are picking. Now, if he didn't have that injury, I think you could probably see him go in the top 15, and he still might because teams might overlook that because of what he's capable of. But your thoughts here from Mike?
It's another scenario where even if it's not your plan A, the plan B would be a nice consolation. I mean, okay, so you back into Colston Loveland. Well, he's not your most glaring need because you signed Evan Ingram, but how dangerous would the Broncos offense look? How cool would the Broncos offense look having both Colston Loveland and Evan Ingram deployed out there with Cortland Sutton and whatever running back they draft, Bo Nix leading it all. So there's a lot to like about that. But they don't have to feel like they have to press either. They don't have to draft for need. Maybe before signing Evan Ingram, they would have pressed for Colston Loveland. They don't have to. So whatever area they go, so this is what I'm saying, they are guaranteed to end up in a good case, a fortuitous case.
And look no further than what the New England Patriots did, revolutionizing the league for a time. It ended up rubber banding back to the mean, but there was a time, Zach, when every team was trying to find two top shelf tight ends to deploy, like Gronk and Hernandez. So we'll see. But I love your point, Mike. Thank you, buddy. David Youngkin jumping in again, brother. Thank you.
David.
He says, is this draft class make or break for the Broncos, considering the number of running backs, tight ends, and other good players in the draft? I mean, if you want, look at it like this. The Broncos rebuild. They hit reset rebuild when they said adios to Russell Wilson, and they're ahead of schedule on that rebuild. They basically were probably expecting to get in 2026 what they achieved in 2025. So now they're ahead of schedule. So if you want them to stay ahead of schedule, continue to defy and continue to climb and genuinely be viewed as one of those teams that is in the upper crust of the AFC, then yes, this draft is very, very important for that. And specifically, is it make or break? No, but I'm telling you right now, David, it's going to be make, because George Paton has a phenomenal draft record. You can go back and look, Zach, at some of the misses that Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis had with the Saints and whatnot. But George Paton has a very, very impressive resume as a draft artist, starting 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. He's got 4 classes under his belt. And not only did he bring in Pro Bowlers and second contract guys and key starters, but the 2 most foundational players on the roster currently were George Paton draft picks, Pat Surtain, Zach, and Bo Nix.
Yeah, I don't know if you mean make or break, like in terms of job security, like if George or Sean would be fired if they don't get the right running back, that's not going to happen. But in terms of how good the offense could be if they get the right running back or tight end or whoever, that's certainly an argument worth having. It's interesting though, Chad, if they do bypass running back in round 1 or round 2 for that matter, if they kick the can down the road because the class is so loaded, they better hope the running back they do get outperforms the lackluster group they had last season, because we all saw how bad the Estime, McLaughlin, Blake Watson, Bidet collective was, how ineffective they were, I should say, overall. They need someone by far and away, night and day, differently better, and they better hope they get the right guy if they don't get the premier on day 1 or maybe even day 2.
And nobody's job is on the line right now. Nobody
Exactly.
at Broncos HQ. I mean, the Walton Penners are super stoked at what they've achieved, Peyton and Peyton. So, no, it's make or break in the sense that if we want all our dreams to come true as soon as possible, yeah, it's make or break. But in a real world sense, nothing's at stake in terms of jobs or whatnot. But that's still David, not to make light of or minimize how important this draft could be for the Broncos' very near future, including 2025. Bugmeister, what is going on, bro?
Thank you, man.
Excellent to see one of our longtime bona fide Super Chat superstars. He says, "What's up, big dogs? Glad I caught you guys live. I'll be out in Denver in May with my son for the Bo Nix camp. Maybe I'll run into you guys. Perhaps." He says, "Keep up the amazing work, guys. Love the show. MHH for life." Well, dude, whether or not we're able to run into you, that sounds like it's going to be a blast for a father and son trip to go out and do the Bo Nix camp. Going to be dope. Really happy for you, buddy.
Yeah, have a great time, Boogie. Let us know how it goes. Please report back. I'm happy Bo Nix is doing these things for the community, and I'm happy that you could take your son to experience that. Appreciate the support, as always.
Really good to see you, my friend. You've been with us for as long as I can remember. Maybe not day one, but you've been with us for as long as I can frickin' remember. And we've been doing this now a long time. A lot of reps under the old belt, so to speak. I mean, we started doing the live. Well, Zach and I teamed up April-ish of 2018. That's when we first started podcasting together. And we were doing it as an on-demand upload. And then about a year and a half later, so the end of the preseason, 2019, so this was the Drew Lock rookie year, we go, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's do one of our, I think what we were doing, Zach, 2 episodes a week at that time, something like that. Let's do our second episode each week. Let's try it. Let's do a live one, because we called it the Mile High Mailbag, where we would take questions. Let's do it live and people can ask us live. We'll try it and see how it goes. Neither of us had really any experience podcasting live, although both of us had streamed live. And especially Zach had streamed live a lot on 24/7 Sports back when we were at CBS. And so we decided, hey, let's give it a shot. And it was so successful right away. Like the very first episode we did, that we looked at each other and we were like, hey, let's do this every episode. And let's not only do it every episode, but let's up the ante. Let's, instead of going twice a week, let's go 3 times a week. And then shortly after that, Zach, if memory serves, we were doing it 4 times a week. So, and that was a long time ago, man. A lot of water has passed under the bridge since then. So I remember most people, though. I mean, I would say 99.9% of our OGs, I'm going to remember who you are.
I got to be honest, though, Chad, you and I had so many discussions in the build up to launching a live podcast and after that and everything, but we could not have fathomed having the level and consistent showing of support like we do with the people who are gracing us with their presence each and every night. So we are so eternally grateful. Thank you, each and every one of you, for interacting with us. It's been a blast, and we look forward to doing it so much more.
It wasn't even on our radar. We didn't even, this is honest to God's truth. We did not even know what a super chat was when we decided to start live streaming.
Sure.
So, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and we are very lucky. We are very blessed, thanks to you guys. So, and we're happy to still be chugging along. So this is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. This is year 8 of Zach and I podcasting together. Ooh. Do you feel old now, Zach?
I feel very old. I don't know where the time really went, Chad. I've had a blast with you, though, on the real. No BS. And we've waded through a lot of uncomfortable waters together. The desert was very warm for a while there without a quarterback, but we're out of it now, and we're on to bigger and better things.
And the truth is, last thing on this, guys, and we'll get back to some Broncos, but you guys have changed our lives, and you changed our lives a long time ago. And so we have very much you guys to thank very much for where we're at. And I hope you guys feel that when we're talking to you and we do this stuff and we have our conversations. And I hope you can feel the love, because it's genuine, you guys. It's genuine. All right, Zach, let me go back here. I want to grab this from Michael Davis. We touched on it, but I want to read it again. He says, the Broncos are in a good spot this year. Very good spot. Team needs running back, tight end, D-line. Draft class strengths, running back, tight end, D-line. And then I think he's throwing in also offensive tackle. I'm not sure on that, but yes, the running back thing is the primary big need. That doesn't mean you make it your very first pick, as we've been discussing all night long, but tight end is now a lesser need, but it's still very much on the board, because Evan Ingram, he's north of 30. It's only a 2-year deal anyway. And the guys you have behind Evan Ingram, Zach, are all Jags. They're all just a guy. No, whether it's Troutman, Kroll, Adkins, they're not going to put a dent in the NFL universe. And with Ingram catching passes from Bo Nix, very well could. But you get a Ferguson from Oregon in there. You get maybe even a Helm. You get from Texas. You get a Fannin from Bowling Green. Talking day 2, day 3 guys, man, or my guy, Brenningstool from Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little fallback guy to learn under Evan Ingram. And when Ingram's time is up, boom, you rock and rolling. Or you go back to the 2 tight end thing who was it that said, from Mike Thompson, Zach, the 2 tight end thing. So, yeah, it's on the table, and D-line is more of a preemptive need, but it's a need nevertheless.
A lot of teams would be happy if their biggest need coalesced in the draft, in terms of a deep draft class. The Broncos' 3 biggest needs arguably coalesce to the draft, having the 3 most loaded positions. So it's pretty, again, fortuitous for Denver, and they should be able to come away with the first 3 rounds or so, first 3-4 rounds with the solution to all their biggest problems. And we just have to hope that the players they choose are the correct ones, which they should be.
And by the way, Michael is clarifying that was he fat fingered the OT. Got you. George, thanks, buddy. Says you guys have the best pod anywhere. We need to thank you for giving us a great place to talk. Broncos, Denver Broncos for life. Thanks, buddy. I don't know what we do. Like, there are times where I wonder. You guys will have to tell me. Maybe one day I'll put out like a real poll on this. But a lot of our, we'll say, competitors and colleagues across the NFL, Zach, that live stream pod, that, they basically take the off season off. They'll do a podcast for free agency. They'll do a podcast to kind of preview the draft and then react to the draft. But we don't change our schedule 365. And that's how it's been, Zach, basically since January of 2020, including all the other shows at MHH. So I do wonder, do you guys want us to take the off season off? You let us know, and be those, just show up for the tentpole moments, show up for, rookie mini camp, do a stream, or do you like the regularity? Because Zach, if we stopped streaming in the off season and we went January, most of January, February, March, April, May, June, and started coming back July when training camp starts, I would feel a massive hole in my heart. I'd be like Ricky Bobby, like, I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I do now? I don't know. Be like a piece of me missing, phantom limb.
Genuinely, yeah. It'd be like, I wear a necklace every day. It'd be like taking my necklace off, and I feel like it's still on me. If we didn't podcast Sunday, Monday, Thursday, I don't know what I really do with myself. So you have to let us know, chat. Tell me what you want us to do.
Randy says, but listen, guys, they, meaning the Jaguars, let Ingram walk for a reason. I think that tight end is still a big need. Well, sure they did. They basically had to do a little bit of a reset themselves, coaching change, massive quarterback injury / disappointment, and a genuine, or I should say general, failure to launch. So they're not really fully doing a reset, but they're doing it kind of like the Broncos. Instead of resetting quarterback, they reset head coach, and they're hoping that head coach can make a difference on quarterback. And along the way, philosophical things change. I wouldn't look at it that way. The biggest thing with Ingram, when you let him walk and you're the Jaguars, is his age and the relative lack of impact last year anyway, Zach, because of the injury bug. So you go, well, then that should be a problem for the Broncos. Injuries. Well, Sean Payton, George Payton, they're very confident that they're going to be able to keep Evan Ingram on the field with their program. So if we didn't have, Zach, the 2 years to hang our hat on, like genuine sample size, let's not forget, in 2022, the Denver Broncos had the most salary cap dollars sitting on injured reserve in the NFL. For the preceding 4 or 5 years, they were the most snake-bitten team in the NFL. And in 2 short years, in fact, Zach, that changed year 1 under Sean Payton.
Yep.
And now you got 2 full years. I believe them when I share in their confidence that they're going to keep Ingram, Greenlaw, Hufanga healthy and on the field. So I'm not worried about that. The biggest concern I have with Ingram, Zach, is simply he's long in the tooth, and at what point, because when they start going downhill, especially that position, they can start regressing pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's just tough because can you pull up the comment again, Chad?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it
So
again.
there's
Hold
one
on.
point I wanted to make about that specifically.
Right here.
Okay, yeah, that's what you mentioned that they let him walk for a reason. This is the Jaguars we're talking about. This isn't the model of success in the NFL. They've been a clown show for years, except for maybe 2 years where they got fluky. So they let Ingram walk, a guy who had 114 catches, I think, Chad, in 2023 for a tight end, which is
Oh
more
yeah.
than the entire combined tight end room for the Broncos. Also, a few years back, Indianapolis let Peyton Manning walk. That turned out pretty well for the Broncos. So let's just be happy that talent was able to migrate to the Broncos because they needed it. And he walks into a plush situation where he's going to be peppered with targets, Chad, consistently.
Mike Thompson, real quick, says, by the way, Bleacher Report ruining its community brought me here. And however, whatever path brought you here, Mike, we're glad that it happened. But I didn't realize Bleacher Report did something to their community. I haven't spent time there for a long time, but maybe it was like a algorithm thing. They changed how people can comment or something. I'm not sure, but we're glad to have you in the house, my friend.
Yep.
And here's from William, one of our genuine early birds, always saying, I don't know that Sean Payton even wants to deal with a guy that has fumbling issues. Look what he did to estimate last year. And I'm not sure who they're talking about. I'm trying to see who they might be talking about, but the one guy that quickly comes to mind for me is Jaden Blue, who has the Texas running back who's a speed demon and super talented, could end up being a real thing in the league. But Zach, he has a ridiculously high fumble rate.
You could coach it out of players, but it's definitely a red flag that gives you pause, especially in a loaded class where you have other players like Trey Henderson's fumble rate is excellent. So again, if they want to go on that route, nudging him wouldn't be the worst thing. Trey Henderson.
That's another name that, how could I have forgotten? Mason Taylor, like round 2, bona fide option. That dude is going to be a stud in the league. I'm very confident in that. James E. Doc JC checking in on Super Chat. Thank you, buddy. And welcome. I don't recognize the handle. Do you recognize the handle, Zach?
I do not.
So
Welcome.
just a lot of times, though, it can maybe you change the handle or it's a different account. But either way, thank you. Appreciate you. Very generous. And by the way, guys, this is the 2-minute warning. Any burning topics, questions, supers, get them in the chat. But James says, haven't missed an episode. Can't always watch live. I like the thoughts of more picks, yet I love the thrill of jumping up to get Sean's guy, whoever that is. I know that's part of the football fanhood addiction thing. Is on one hand, you're going, oh, the rationale. What are we giving up? But if it got you Ashton Jeanty and you plug him in, I mean, think of the strides they made last year with this offense and Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix is that tide, Zach, that raised all the ships, including Cortland Sutton. But Marvin Mims turning on down the stretch. Then you're bringing in Evan Ingram, and you have one of the top 2 best offensive lines in the NFL. And you throw this guy like a Jeanty behind that because you traded up, gave up some serious capital. Maybe you gave up a second and third round pick to go get him. That would hurt. You'd kind of go, but Zach, you'd be getting Ashton freaking Jeanty. So James, I totally feel you and understand what you mean by that.
That's why I was saying last year at this time, if Sean wants to move up for his quarterback, whether it's Drake May or McCarthy or Bo Nix, whoever it was, then I sign off on that. But he likes trading up. Sean Payton or George Payton likes trading back. I think they're going to end up meeting in the middle and staying put at 20.
By the way, James, don't worry about the fat finger typing. I victimize myself with that every single day in my texts. Like probably every 3 texts from me is the little asterisk correcting the fat thumb or the autocorrect. I'm that guy that will feel the need to do it. It's the editor in me. But it's James Edwards. Okay, what's up? St. Kitts in the house. Okay, great to see you, buddy. And thank you for that very generous super. And we'll see, bro. We'll see what happens relative to, do they trade up? Do they trade back? We shall see. All right, one more, and then we're going to get to some matters of business. And by the way, David, adios, buddy. Great to see you. Thanks for your support and helping us with the conversation tonight. Leroy, what's up, bro? He says, what's up, Mile High Priests? Can't wait until draft night. I'm licking my chops on what we're going to do at 20. Trade up, trade down. Just don't know. All I know is he better contribute right away for us this season. If it's an offensive player or a defensive player, I just want a beast, Zach.
I think you're going to get one, Leroy. You're right. Whether it's offensive, like running back, tight end, receiver, or defense, defensive lineman, maybe inside linebacker if someone falls like Jihad Campbell, you're going to get a player that's going to step in from day one and at least be a high snap, high volume contributor. In the best case scenario, they would step into a no doubt starting job. But regardless, there's no losing scenario here, I feel like. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a win-win-win across the board in round one.
They're in a good situation. And David Robinson, so Robinson and Thompson, 2 MHH streams in a row, throwing down supers. Thank you guys. Really appreciate you. But his actual question is, David Robinson's is, I might have missed this, but what you guys said about this, but what would the Broncos have to give up to move up to Jeanty? Or for Jeanty. So I pulled up, dang it. Hold on. I gotta reload this page. Get out of here. Add. So let me do the math. The Broncos sit at pick 20. All right. So to guarantee you get them, you got to get in front of probably the Raiders at 6. So that would be Jacksonville at 5. That pick, Zach, is worth on the chart 1,700 points. The Broncos pick at 20 is worth 850 points. So, let's do the math. 1,700 minus 850. Guys, I don't math well. I got to have a calculator. So it's exactly 850. So that would take, you could throw in your second round pick at 51. That would be worth 390 points, get you half the distance. And then probably a third and a fourth round pick. It wouldn't necessarily need to be from this draft, but that would need to be the compensation, basically. So are you willing to get to 5? And it could be more because it's also completely contingent on the laws of Zach supply and demand. So if multiple teams are calling on that, drives it up. But let's say it's just in a vacuum and it's only the Broncos calling the Jags. They're going to have to give up probably a 2. First of all, swap their first, and then a 2, a 3, maybe even 2 2s to get all the way up to 5. So that would be a lot, Zach, for a running back. But if he turns into, the second coming of whatever, I guess for Sean Payton, if he's Alvin Kamara on steroids, then it's worth it.
That's what I was going to say, though. I mean, if to move up from 20 to 5, the team, you're moving up with is going to know who you're moving up for, and they're going to ask for more in return. So I don't know that a pair of 2s would get it done. They might ask for a future first rounder and say, listen, you don't want to give it up, then, SOL, we'll just stay put and take who we want at the spot or give it to the next highest bidder. It's going to cost a pretty penny. And I just don't know, again, in a loaded class for a running back, a non-quarterback, it's tough for me to sign off if I'm, Greg Penner, for example. It's tough to sign off on a move like that, Chad.
But David, thank you for the super chat, buddy. And it's a really good question. Forced me to pull out the old draft chart and refamiliarize myself with the arithmetic. And I don't love doing that. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I don't math real well. You guys just saw that it took me a calculator to realize that 850 times 2 is 1,700, right? I mean, it takes me a second. DJ Capo jumping in again. Thank you, bro. You the man. 11th hour super. Number 2, though, says, I think Sean Payton might do a shocking move on draft night. He says, I'm from New Orleans, and I've seen him do some stuff with the Saints. I grew up around the corner from VJ. Really cool. And yes, Zach, Sean Payton does have a history of moving up in the draft. This would be a blockbuster move up the draft, though, if you're trying to get to Jeanty, that is.
I think it's more probable, DJ, and thank you for your second super and all your support. I think it's more probable they move up from 51 to the 30s or the 40s than they do in the first round. I do think they're going to stay put similar to last year and just take BPA no matter who that is. Though after the first round, 2, 3, etc., I would anticipate George getting fairly aggressive.
Dylan's saying, but yeah, I couldn't do it in this class. In this class, it's so deep. And that's true. It is a deep class. So these are the factors that have to be considered. And String Guy's like, man, why are you raining on our parade, Dylan? Let us dream for Jeanty. And I don't know who the comment came from, but I saw one earlier that said, I don't know, Jeanty's kind of small. Dude, he's 211 pounds. I mean, he's just shy of, what is he, 5'8" and some change. So he's just shy of 5'9". He's 211 pounds. He's 2 inches. He's basically Clinton Portis minus 2 inches. Like, he's not small. He's short ish. Like I don't know. Let me see. Average American male height. 5'9". So he's exactly American male average, Zach. Maybe like a couple of just a hair under the American adult male average. But for the NFL, I don't know what the average of, let's see, maybe Google knows. Average NFL running back height. Let's just see. Craps and giggles. It says 5'10". That's Google's AI overview is 5'10". So we'll call it an inch shorter, Zach, than the average. But dude, again, he's 211 pounds. I stood next to this guy at the combine. He's not small. My dude is crazily yoked, okay? He's like muscle bound and explosive and twitchy. I don't worry about him being too small for what it's worth.
No, I think, we're getting to a point where we might be galaxy braiding this discussion a little bit. He's a tremendous, tremendous running back. And no matter what team takes him, whether it's the Broncos, the Raiders, or anyone, they're going to be getting a hell of a player and one of the premier backs for the next 3 to 5 years at least.
Zach, I'm going to just grab this from Todd, and then you get to our goodbye messages. We're not leaving quite yet, but Todd's saying we may, in fact, draft Trey Henderson at 20 because O'Marion Hampton, Ashton Jeanty, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and Kenneth Grant are all gone, which is possible. It's in the cards. And again, I think it might be a little rich, but if the Broncos were confident enough, Zach, in Henderson at 20, I'm not really second guessing it.
They said 12 was too rich for Bo Nix, and that worked out pretty well. So, tremendous episode of the Mile Huddle podcast. As always, if you're not following us on Twitter, please be sure to follow us at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL. Don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
That's right. And by the way, Broncos Country Daily on Instagram is pounding the table for Luther Burden III in the first round. Okay, that's cool, man. I don't love him for what it's worth, but he's an interesting player. I'm not sure of the fit. Not that he wouldn't succeed in the scheme, but relative to what the Broncos already have, namely Marvin Mims Jr. D. Witt also on Instagram says Travion Henderson was a 2-time player of the year in Richmond, Virginia, won a state championship at Hopewell High School. He's the real deal. I watched this kid play since he was basically a kid. Really cool. And then Adam Doss saying we need another corner on Instagram. Appreciate you guys being with us over there. A mile high salute and a special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight. And if by chance we missed anybody on Facebook, just let us know. If you threw down stars and we didn't feature you, we will make it up to you. We don't have Mr. Producer tonight, so it's a little bit harder for us to stay on top of that. But just reach out and let us know, and we'll make it up to you. But a shout out to the Papa Bear, David McElrath, Eric Holt, David Youngkin, Shiloh Heesh, the Duchess, Michaela Parker, George Fox, DJ Capo, Byron Lewis, Mike Thompson. If you keep it up at this rate, you're becoming a Super Chat superstar. Really cool. The Boogmeister and OG, James Edwards, what's up, dude? David Robinson as well. Keep it up, buddy. And DJ, one of a few guys who threw down more than once tonight. So thank you guys. But Zach and I will be back tomorrow night. And don't forget, some of you, if you had burning draft questions that we didn't quite get to or were unable to answer, catch Broncos for Breakfast on the Bright tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time, 9:30 Eastern. Eric and Nick will be breaking it all down. It'll be fun. But meanwhile, Zach and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you tomorrow night, same time. Earlier, though. We'll be on time tomorrow night.
Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.